from an undisclosed location in the Great Western Desert in the land of the free and autonomous Native American people. The 2024 presidential campaign in its time to return all US land back to their rights owners. This is the Ben Zion Podcast. Techno-communism will win.
Welcome back to the Ben Zion Podcast. We're going to talk about a few different news articles today that from the capitalist press to do with tech. Some of them have misleading headlines, as writers of the West are sometimes quite often doing. But sometimes they're not misleading in the sense of funneling State Department friendly misinformation down your throat, which is really the largest offender there, but rather just clickbait things where you say that article's not really describing this horrible scenario. So one of these horrible scenarios, and we're going to ask ChatGPT GPT another question. One of these horrible scenarios, horrible, it's not bad, but is the OpenAI CEO, the figurehead at least of ChatGPT, says his tech is poised to break capitalism. A stupid thing for a capitalist to say, and we'll explain why this article is misleading. But I should say that ChatGPT, if you haven't heard of it, its user numbers are massive. It's gone to 100 million users for ChatGPT in a matter of weeks, wherein many sites would take many, many years to get that many users. And it's being used in novel ways. So it is groundbreaking technology. But it's the capitalists controlling this sort of thing have their finger on the scale to make sure that it's never actually very groundbreaking, not in the way that it should be. You can go back and watch the last 14 episodes of this program and get some ideas about how that's done. But there's Sam Altman and stupid sunglasses. Let's see. So this is an article by Noor Al-Sabi, writing in The Bite, and I found it on futurism.com. And it does not agree with Sam Altman that he is going to be crucial to breaking capitalism, or that he has any desire to break capitalism. This is kind of echoing the what techno-fascists said of the 2000s, 2010s, that they're going to move fast and break things. So they did disrupt certain kinds of industries, or shape certain kinds of tech industries, but they did this in all of this is, it's like, you're always kind of complaining about the PayPal mafia or the intellectual dark web guys. Those are the people that are the visible figures of techno revolution, a sham techno revolution, and everything that they do is meant to give you the impression that good things are being done, but all of this is State Department friendly propaganda. All of these businesses are integrated into the military-industrial complex. They profit by it. They become national figures and influential figures and wealthy people by playing this kind of game. And so they're not to suppose that people like this are going to be instrumental in in ending capitalism is a farce. The great bits of misdirection of computer science thinkers of 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 the past century, which is the idea that which I don't think is important. I think I've said it's crypto-fascistic to focus on the idea of machines becoming conscious. Um, if if you're wondering what is consciousness, why am I here? Can machines be conscious? Don't think about that. Consciousness is a gross overstatement of your experience. Okay, it's just a confluence of a few factors that you've kind of mystified and glorified. You have agency, the same as any creature, an ant. um, you're able to make decisions, and you have a big brain. Um, that in my case not that big, but we all have pretty big brains, and those big brains have evolved to uh, contemplate a lot of things, and that's very good for us. Um, and so we have this idea that we are conscious, and this is a humanistic worldview, right? It's We're more conscious than other creatures. You don't know that. On some levels, you can be less conscious than other creatures. Certainly, there's creatures that communicate with one another in different ways than human beings do. So, in their interaction, they have a greater kind of instinctual class consciousness than human beings do. But the idea of individual consciousness is it's a dumb thing to fixate on because just an emergent effect of having a brain and being able to make choices and having the power of speech and creating a whole lot of mythology around who you are. I have a soul. Consciousness is not so distinct from just saying somebody has a soul. Do you have a soul? What the fuck is that? Just stop making stuff up. Don't fixate on consciousness. And insofar as don't dismiss the idea of human consciousness because we don't want to completely degrade conditions for human beings. If people stop believing that anything is alive or meaningful, then and that's also probably a slippery slope into fascism. But don't fixate on a machine having consciousness. A machine does not have agency, and insofar as it has agency, it's a machine. It's not an organism. Let's stop being idiots. So this article talks about a little bit about this idea of two different OpenAI people. We're talking about people who are not really living good lives, and yet we're talking about how wonderful they are. These are capitalists. So Ilya Sutskever is somebody who works for OpenAI, like Sam Altman. Sam Altman works for other businesses like Y Combinator, a big tech. But these two people, Ilya and Sam, have different opinions on consciousness, and I'll probably have to agree more with Sam on this, because Sam doesn't argue that systems aren't developing the potential for agency. I'm just not too impressed by the idea of consciousness. But Alias says computers are going to be conscious. You should worry about humans being more conscious and more connected, and that's something that I don't just talk about this in terms of dialectical materialism, Marxist thought, or in terms of just some kind of touchy-feely thing. Those are all important. Well, the first one is important, but human. I define humans as lacking a certain kind of consciousness by their relatively small brain. You have a big enough brain to think about yourself. You don't exactly have a big enough brain to make consistent plans or cooperate very well with others. If that were the case, the planet wouldn't be dying because of badly conceived human endeavors. And so my thing is that we need to become more connected to one another and smarter using this emerging technology. Advanced interfaces, things like neural lace and many others, not limited to microsurgery into the brain, or not even limited to the company Neuralink that Elon Musk is constantly touting. There's other prototypes that don't involve surgery that could do a similar thing. Connect many thousands of your neurons effectively to a computer allows you to do quite a lot more and experience quite a lot more. Um, and You can, in a slightly less creepy way, you can say the same thing about technology like ChatGPT. It's allowing you to do an awful lot more with systems and an awful lot more with people. And I think that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg of what human beings are going to be able to do um, if they are truly interested in being cooperative and being smarter and better. And may prove to be the case that human beings are not interested in those things. It may prove to be the case that as we start to see more of the iceberg, people will become terrified. I'm quite convinced that these State Department friendly tech people are already anticipating that and saying and pretty well saying we can all shy away from this. But I've said this before. If the hive mind, if these particular set of emerging technologies to do with computer science um, are only going, if the hive mind only exists in the West for just a couple of military personnel in a bunker in in an airplane hangar, um, in a big warehouse or something, uh, doing something dirty like what they would be doing now, drone striking civilians. And in socialist countries, it involves actually giving advanced interfaces and access to powerful, super intelligent entities to human beings and having them start to connect to one another. Which of those sounds to you like the thing that will be more powerful? It's people being connected to each other, right? We're entering the stage of history where the elitists running interference against human beings coming together might be starting to backfire. So Sam Altman, he says, I can't imagine artificial general intelligence breaking capitalism. So, you know, say anarcho-capitalists, people with incoherent worldviews, like Sam Altman, say this kind of thing all the time, but they don't actually support. It's just like any other liberal. A quote from Leo Tolstoy is like this. I heard this quote recently. I might have seen it before, I don't recall. I sit on a man's back, choking him and making him carry me. This is the colonialist. This is the imperialist. This is every Westerner, really. I sit on the man's back, choking him and making him carry me, and yet assure myself and others that I am very sorry for him, liberal, and wish very sorry for him and wish to ease his lot by all possible means, except by getting off of his back. That pretty well sums up what people like Sam Altman are doing when they're paying lip service to the idea of defeating capitalism. They're not going to do that when it comes down to it, and they're not done it thus far by their actions. But they will try to draw heat off of themselves because OpenAI is taking some heat for some of this, being a potentially disruptive business model across many sectors, is in and of itself a thing that will get other people, other capitalists, wagging their finger at them. And you can see this because he says one of the most State Department things that anybody ever could say in this course of this conversation. I love capitalism, he told Forbes once. Of all the bad systems we have, it's the best one. Capitalism is a bad system, but it is not better than other systems. Other systems, like existing socialist states of the 20th century, did not fail. They were attacked by a widespread espionage, widespread open warfare, and all manner of dirty tricks. You know, this, and they did not have the way to defend themselves against lunatics like this. They were operating on the assumption that people would come together and stand up for themselves and one another in the natural course of things, and people didn't really do that, and they didn't, and so they completely underestimated what bad actors would do. This, using their wealth, their ill-gotten gains, to spread propaganda and wage open warfare and sabotage. So the failed system, right? That's the thing that we're saying. Oh, is the bad system. The thing that doubled life expectancy in every country where it was implemented. In everything that matters, more advanced than capitalism was over feudalism, over literal kingdoms and slavery and so forth. So the idea that this is a CIA talking point. Socialism is a failure. Socialism is not a failure. Socialists were murdered. That's not the same thing. So anybody who would say that, just assume that they're a piece of shit. And a lot of people who call themselves anarchist or present in that way will say things exactly like this. They're constantly repeating CIA talking points. Be on the lookout for CIA talking points. It's very difficult to avoid them for more than an hour if you live in the United States, and this is a pretty good one. So here's another spicy headline. This is in Popular Mechanics. Again, like IFL Science, they often express ideas that would be consistent with Marxist tech accelerationism, or the idea that emerging technology should be harnessed to build a humane and sustainable world. Not really. They will do this kind of thing Leo Tolstoy was complaining about, saying, we want to do good things. Okay, let's do good things. Oh, no, we don't want to do good things. When it comes to the action, they won't do it. And that's almost every Western media outlet. That's almost every Western public-facing personality. And that's really every one of you assholes. Let's not kid ourselves. There's a couple of people that are better than that, but it's 3% of the population of 400 million people, rather. So this is a spicy headline. Humanity will reach its peak within just decades, trend shows. Popular Mechanics, going into scary mode. And the impending singularity may spell our end even sooner. Ooh, that's even scarier. I'm so scared now. And then there's a face, there's one of these kind of things. I've used this kind of thing too. Like I think I said on the last show or the show before that sometimes there'll be a brain with a bunch of blue wires, stylized wiry things coming out, and it'll be a glowy brain, and kind of what's become stereotypical clip art for tech-related shit. This article is mostly actually about um, population projections, which who knows? Population. If you had population projections, um, people had said, "Oh, what do you think when in the 20th century, early 20th century, a time almost at just beyond living memory?" People said, "Well, what do you think the population will be at the end of the century?" People were saying half the number that it is, and people were saying that and technologists were saying, "Well, we'll have flying cars, whatever, X, Y, and Z kind of amazing thing," and kind of growth and dehumanization has been what has happened instead. So I don't trust people when they talk about predictions of this kind. They're better at predicting this sort of thing though than they were in 1920. Kind of an example of one of these articles where just kind of throw in the idea of a technological singularity almost as an afterthought to seem like they're being thought provoking. Because it's not so much discussed. But can AI reaching singularity have a declining result on the human population? Maybe that's a question for ChatGPT if it's working. Will artificial general intelligence lead to a decline in the human population? It is difficult to predict the exact outcome of development of artificial general intelligence with certainty. Yeah, that's maybe how you know that you're not dealing with an artificial general intelligence. It's telling you can't predict anything. I can predict some stuff. Might not be right. Some experts have raised concerns that AGI could potentially pose a threat to humanity if not properly developed and controlled. However, it is also possible that AGI could have positive impacts on society, such as solving complex global problems and improving quality of life. So this ChatGPT thinks that I'm saying that a decline in human population would be a bad thing. But there's scenarios where a decline in the human population is a pretty good thing, right? Like just a huge number of people deciding that they wouldn't want to have children anymore. That leads to a more stable world. You might say, do those people have the same quality of life? Have previous generations of people who did opt to have children? This is some generally regarded as a source of happiness for people to have children. But that's kind of a little bit of expectation formation. That's just a cultural thing, I think, because how many people that it just is anecdotal, but how many people that who in the West who have a perfect track record of happy relationships and marriages and things? I don't know any. Everybody's had some pretty bad relationships, and if people just set about to live their lives without that aspect, I think they could be happier. And people then say, well, there's an end of life consideration. After all is said and done, what have you done with your life if you haven't had children? Well, what you've done with your life if you haven't had children is you haven't contributed to the extinction of the planet by creating more consumers who would, most importantly, might not live half so long as you were able to live because of worsening conditions in this capitalist climate apocalypse that we're facing. So what have you done? What have you done with your life? Yeah, you were smarter than most. This prompt would seem to be thinking that I have a less neutral view of decline in human population than perhaps I do. It's kind of wanting to tell me what I want to hear, which is that everything's going to be fine and AGI will make things better. But the better thing could very well be that people are convinced not to have children and to instead live their own lives, which could be extended. There's a weird set of things changing with particular emerging technologies or emerging biomedicine in this context. If you can live in a preternaturally long lifespan, the people who are interested in living a preternaturally long lifespan in the West that I've encountered, and it's not a shocking thing, they're very individualistic in their mindset. They're not interested in really being better people or closer to others. They're hyper egoistic. That's why I say it's like transhumanism is so incoherent. It's because it's describing a lot of different sectors of emerging technology that have different socio-political dynamics at play. Ideally, people who are interested in this kind of thing, living longer lives, would also be interested in the things that I've articulated as Marxist tech accelerationism and people using advanced algorithms and advanced interfaces to change the human experience and become more connected and more powerful and stable. I believe that this experience, which has yet to be experienced by anyone, is a greater intelligence for humans and more of a stability for human beings. It might seem no more or less stable in when you're looking at any individual person. There's some things about this could be quite maddening. You could liken it to the experience of losing your sight. What happens to a person if they go blind? Well, they're not usually real happy about that. It would be an extremely rare person who's like, what an exciting new lifestyle for me being blind. It would seem that you would say the same thing about these kind of changes to the human experience, having 40,000 of your neurons cloned and connected to a computer and being able to experience another person's life simultaneously, or experiences well beyond even that, as you're integrating with the superintelligence. For the individual, some of the people are going to be jarred by that. The society at large, an awful lot of people would be resistant to it and outside of that, but even the people experiencing it would be jarred by that, just in the way that a pretty high number of people who go blind are like, whoa, this sucks. I don't like being blind. It's that much of, at least that much of a change in your lifestyle and experience. This kind of thing should lead to people, at the very least, being less egoist than the people who are interested in life extension today, and the people who are interested in emerging technology are no better in the West than the life extensionists. Some of the life extensionists, there's not a lot of life extensionists, and the ones there are medical professionals, researchers or doctors. Those are people who do ostensibly want to help people, but you're talking about also talking about people who are heavily integrated into for-profit healthcare system that just lets 2 million people die of a plague, will create a new industry that's a band-aid. Vaccines are not new, of course, but creating a whole new set of vaccines for everyone in the wake of a pandemic, they're always going to be losing that race. There's always going to be variants and new diseases that are a step behind the vaccines. And that's in a word, why as many people died in 2022 of airborne contagions as 2020 or 2021, because everyone's overstating the importance of vaccines, understating the importance of other measures, and that is a part of that for-profit death care, that lack of a public health service mandate. So is the doctor, the Western doctor, the U.S. doctor particularly, who says he's helping people but works in that death care mill, in that set of systems, is that guy the humanitarian of the year? No. he's almost as bad as fucking Sam Altman. and that's how life extensionists are. So it's a whole the thing that I realized as I started to think about these things more and more often is that we're just not prepared for this at all. Artificial general intelligence, emerging biomedicine, extending human life. That's that's less controversial. I mean, if lifespan is longer, then it's longer. It doesn't change as much in the way that I've described this a shocking new use of technology that would be likened to the um, the 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 shock that you would experience of suddenly losing your sight. People maybe have a similar thing with losing their hearing. Those are the big two where people. Um, I lost my smell for a couple of days when I had coronavirus, and that was a little bit of a shock to the system too. But I can't. I haven't been blind or deaf, but I don't think it's quite the same. Not quite as bad losing your sense of smell. There were quite a few people who've lost their sense of smell in the last few years for a while.